Welcome back to Empowered in Tech, Women in Tech Netherlands, the podcast where we amplify the voices of women shaping the future of technology, leadership, innovation, and more. I'm your host, Ilaria Severi, global brand manager, marketeer, storyteller, I like to say. And today's episode dives into a topic that's reshaping every industry, every career, and every leader's mindset: upskilling and reskilling in the age of AI. Now, let's be honest, AI is no longer a buzzword. It's the baseline. It's transforming how we work, how we lead, communicate, even think. I mean, I recently posted about the latest campaign from ChatGPT, and the campaign really showed how we're using AI on a daily basis, even if the car breaks down, right? The rules of the game have changed, and the people who will thrive in this new era aren't necessarily the ones with the fanciest titles, but the ones who keep learning. And that's exactly what today's guest embodies. Imagine becoming a member of parliament at just 26 years old, then leading as a CEO at 29, taking a director role at a multinational at 40, and today standing at the global intersection of technology, policy, and ethics as a professor, AI auditor, and UNESCO AI expert. That's the story, and the guest of today is Esther van Egerschot. She's one of the world's leading voices in AI governance, digital transformation, and public policy. A woman who not only understands how AI systems work, but how they should be governed, audited, and held accountable. She's shaped legislation across continents, advises executive boards on responsible AI, and co authored the recently released book, Supervising in the Age of AI. But what makes Esther's story so inspiring is not just her influence, it's her mindset. When we talked, she said, I had to be more educated and more knowledgeable than most of my peers just to be taken seriously. And I believe a lot of us can resonate with that. So that relentless drive to learn, evolve, and reinvent herself became her superpower. And today it's what she believes every professional needs to survive and thrive in the AI era. In this conversation, we'll talk about why upskilling and reskilling are no longer optional, how AI literacy is becoming the new currency in every industry, what it takes to keep reinventing yourself, and more. This is not just a conversation about technology, it's about staying human in an automated world. But before we dive in, let's take a moment to thank the partner who helps us make this podcast possible. In fact, a big thank you to our sponsor, DMN Westinghouse, for supporting Empowered in Tech, Women in Tech Netherlands podcast. DMN Westinghouse is a global engineering company that truly walks the talk when it comes to diversity and inclusion. They believe innovation happens when every voice is heard, and they're creating opportunities for women in technology and engineering to lead that change. Their support helps us amplify the stories of inspiring women like Esther who are shaping the future of tech with purpose and vision. If you're ready to join a company that's building a more inclusive and forward-thinking workplace, visit their website or follow them on LinkedIn to explore open roles. Now, let's welcome the brilliant, unstoppable, and endlessly curious Esther. Esther, I'm so honored to have you here with us today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. It's a lovely day today in Bogota, Colombia. So really happy to join.
Yeah, well, I'm in the dark and cold Amsterdam today, so I envy
Sorry.
you just a little bit. And I believe a lot of our listeners will envy you when they're going to listen to you. So, Esther, I have to say, your career really reads like several lifetimes in one. And for those who don't see, we don't have a video on Spotify yet. Maybe I'll post something in video format, but I want to say Esther looks very, very young. So she's a very young woman. So indeed, it feels like she's been living different lives all at the same time. Because from
Yeah.
policy making to AI auditing to teaching future leaders around the world, I mean, you have reinvented yourself again and again. What did it take to keep stepping into roles that didn't exist before? And how did that mindset of upskilling and reskilling start for you?
Well, thank you again, by the way, for the compliment. Yeah, I feel in my teens, but I'm almost hitting 50. So I'm not a teenager.
But you look, but still, almost 50 is still very young nowadays. So.
Yeah, no. And really, I hear a lot of times people saying, I'm too old for this. I barely have an iPhone. I don't know if I can hop on this bandwagon anymore. and they're my age, and I keep telling them, no way, 50 is the new 20.
Exactly.
And my body also feels that way. So I think we're progressing as a humankind in that department too. I think growing up really young, I was told, maybe because I'm blonde, maybe because I'm a girl, maybe because I'm very extrovert, that I probably wouldn't get somewhere in life. I was actually told that if I wanted to achieve the goals that I had, the fastest way was marrying an ambassador. And then I would see the world and I would be able to connect people as an ambassador's wife. That was literally what was told when I was a young girl, and I would share my ambitions. I think that adversary, that lack of trust in general from people that in my capabilities, from being a young girl in middle school all the way up to the moment that I became member of parliament, really fueled my passion to make sure I was always the smartest person in the room, at least the most educated. I can't necessarily be the wisest or the smartest, but I can be the most educated person in the room. And, when you hit parliament at the age of 26, those rooms are predominantly filled with white men that are middle-aged. And so they will talk to you like you're their granddaughter or worse.
And here we're talking about the Dutch parliament because we didn't specify that before.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sorry. I'm a native Dutchie. I currently live in Bogota, Colombia. But unfortunately, I don't think that the environment has changed so much. Right now, a lot of members of parliament have left. We just had elections. New parliament was installed just a couple of days ago. And then talking to women my age and even older that have really impressive track records, that just are not member of parliament anymore and have some time to, talk it over with a former colleague, you hear them say the same thing. It's still a very misogynist world. And I'm not too sure if it's just a misogyny. I also think my age gap has always been something that was hard to swallow for a lot of people. I think if a young guy the same age would have entered the room, that would have also been an issue. Like I remember one of my assistants was a really nice but bald gray guy. And every time we would visit a company or an organization, people assumed that they got wrong in their heads who they were waiting for. So at the reception, they would shake his hand as if he was the member of parliament. And I think listening to my dear colleagues who just left parliament, not a lot has changed in that department. And also, I was not just the woman in the room, the young person in the room, but a lot of people wanted to talk about technology, but really didn't understand it. So I think that one of my assets, if I may call it that way, is that I understand the legal side of things because I was trained a lawyer. I have a master's degree in law. I was practically educated through my work as a member of parliament, but even the years before, campaigning with Mark Rutte, going from town to town on a bus, really trying to understand what moved society. So that footprint, that imprint of the impact of things I got by just learning on the job. And then the amount of stuff that I know about the technical side of things, because I decided to completely reskill as a data scientist, start building these models myself. And with models, I predominantly mean what people now call systems, because models for nowadays are just large language models, even though that's technically incorrect, but whatever. But really getting to understand how to code, how these systems work, how agents work, because everything has changed so much in this last year and a half. I was able to really capitalize on what I call my triangle of judicial, legal, impact, society, and technical side of things. And that is, something that made a lot of people nervous when I walked into a room. And so, it has really fueled me in one way, and in another way, it gave me the opportunity to keep evolving, keep developing, keep upskilling and reskilling myself, become super agile. And honestly, I'm having just a lot of fun doing all this stuff.
That's amazing. And I think, I mean, this is when I talk about mindset. That's the mindset that I believe is going to win in the years to come because technology moves so fast. Things change so fast. So even it doesn't matter if you're 50, if you're 30, if you're 20. In 5 years, there will be something completely new or an upgrade of what we're used to, right? So I think that I would like to touch upon what I want to ask about how important AI literacy is. And I love that we come to touch upon this topic again because we briefly discussed it in one of our previous episodes with Mariska Kleis. And we said how the difference that you can make is based also on the eye literacy. I mean, I feel that the fear that there is out there, it's a lot, it's not unmotivated, but it also means that a lot of it is unknown or people don't learn enough, don't study enough. But how do you see this topic? What does AI literacy mean for you?
Everything, to be honest, not just because I'm a professor here and an associate professor in Curacao, but through my UNESCO work, I just see that digital divide between men, women, rural, urban, different ethnical backgrounds, different social backgrounds. I just see that gap widen and widen. And it's not just the big complaints about, just a few guys owning big tech companies, deciding on everything. But I'm honestly very worried about that digital divide. For instance, here in Colombia, 30% of the people don't have a steady internet connection, which already kind of leaves them out of this digital transformation the country is going through. I think it's interesting that people talk about AI literacy through the eyes of Article 4 of the EU AI Act. Is this something that is really an obligation for us? How should we read this article? It's not sanctioned, so should we really take it seriously? I think every organization, whether you're a big company, you're a public organization, you're an NGO, you have the responsibility to make sure that everybody gets a chance to jump on this bandwagon. I think we should make sure that it's not just employees, but also their families that get this opportunity. And if governments don't invest in this for their whole population, then I think everybody else should feel that moral obligation. And I truly believe everybody should get a chance to at least understand what this technology is, what it can do, what it can't do, because there's a lot of interesting views on what it already can do, but it really doesn't. And I think, the opportunities are great, but people should definitely understand the risks. If you look at all the things that hit the headlines for either an NGO or a large private organization or even for governments, it's been the stuff that is basically very predictable that it would happen one day. Because people really didn't know about the implications of this technology. So whether you care about your moral obligation or not, it's really, really important to protect your organization by making sure that, people are literate when it comes to AI.
100%.
I've had people literally ask me, so AI, everybody talks about a black box. So it's like something you find in an airplane. It's actually a box in AI. People don't understand really the concept. And you and I can be baffled by the fact that people don't understand that because you and I on a daily basis work with this software.
Exactly.
But for me, it's such an eye-opener that still that whole concept of what AI is can be
100%.
Totally opaque to so many people. So I think there's a moral obligation. Of course, there's a legal obligation for some organizations, most organizations. But I think we should really help people to understand this technology, help build the organizations because they understand the opportunities of this technology. But also help protect the organizations against reputational risks, financial risks, because they understand that you have to mitigate certain things like biases and other stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, everything you said just makes me reflect so much on everything about AI because, of course, when we live in a privileged world, and I believe people who live in Europe, we are pretty much in a space, in a good space, right? Compared to other continents, other countries. So in general, wherever you go, there is good internet. Yes, we have access to it. when we talk about AI literacy here, I feel that maybe, and what I was also referring to, the concern is that people get scared by it because they don't know enough, or they, exactly what you were saying, they cannot recognize the biases that are also built within the model. So that can be the dangerous part, right? But what I hadn't really reflected on was the fact that AI literacy, or lack of, can really increase the gap in society between the literate people and the non-literate. So AI is not a matter of being able to use an app. Oh, I don't use the app, so I can still live with it. It goes way beyond there. So to a point that probably AI should be at least the basis of AI models like ChatGPT, although maybe I'm using the word models as well wrongly, but should be taught, and should be taught what it means to provide prompts. What can you get out of it? How can you judge it? Because also that's what happens many times. People take whatever they're given out. That's the answer, right? There is no, of course,
over reliance.
Exactly. Yes. And the other side of AI is that it kind of decreases your critical thinking if you let it, because you can still critically think, right? And say, okay, well, what you say. And at first, if you don't read correctly, whatever the AI provides you seems fantastic until you actually read it. And then you're like, no, that's not okay, or whatever, whatnot. But then I wanna be more practical, and I wanna ask you, with all your experience talking to people when you were in the parliament and going on tour with Mark Rutte, but now doing the job that you're currently doing, like you've seen a lot, you've learned a lot, and people also feel scared now about AI in the sense of like, oh, it's gonna take my job, what is gonna happen to me. I've heard that also from a lot of my friends who are developers, tech guys and or tech girls. But how can people, let's say, decide whether to upskill or reskill, and in which way in such an age?
Very good question. Well, first of all, we are going to lose jobs in this whole process. That's for sure.
It's a fact.
Like our whole society is basically based on like a pyramid. It's shaped like a pyramid. Mm-hmm. So we got a lot of people starting out their careers, and then the more you get to the top, the less people are in that particular spot. So a lot of junior and media people are making the money for whichever organization it is, whether it's a public or a private. Public, it doesn't really mean necessarily money, but the execution of the work, let's put it that way, is predominantly done by those bottom layers of that pyramid and not by that top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
Now, what does AI do, and what does AI make easier? The repetitive tasks, the simple tasks, all that stuff that's in the bottom of the pyramid. So we're going from a pyramid to an obelisk, basically. Hopefully, for a lot of organizations, they are getting ready for that, but I'm not too much seeing that right now.
Okay.
So it's a real fear that people have. How is this going to affect my job? However, there's two sides of the coin, because also a lot of jobs that did not exist, like for instance, AI auditor, like AI evangelist, the AI translator in an organization. All these jobs did not exist 4 years ago, and they're now booming. However, we come back to that digital divide. This is the privileged of everybody. So you're very right. It's a lot about creative thinking, critical thinking, and all of that, which especially my generation still had to learn. But more and more generations will rely on AI to help them with that critical thinking. And the MIT research of Natalia, where she says, the cognitive thinking process is heavily damaged, and we see it cognitive decline. So these are very serious threats to the newest generations and the generations to come. However, I always use this analogy, and it's not mine, so you probably heard it already, but when you and I are standing in the Sahara and there's a leopard behind us, I don't need to outrun the leopard. I just need to outrun you, because when he's chewing on you, he can't be chewing on me at the same time.
I didn't know this one. It's a new metaphor.
It's a bit of a disgusting metaphor, kind of morbid.
It works. It works.
I don't wish you to be the hamburger of that leopard.
Yeah, exactly.
But it does kind of work. So I don't want people to fear all of this. I want them to get prepared. I want them to get prepared on a level where they can say, I understand this. I can help my organization build on this. So say, for instance, you're a starting lawyer. Now, we all know that lawyers are going to be superfluous in bulk, at least soon, because everybody's starting to do their own contractual work. People are starting to use AI to prepare for their pleas in court. Even judges are using it right now. But the great thing is, at the end of the day, we all don't necessarily need that lawyer so much to help us on the legal side, but more on the human side of things. We want to use them to help us calm down, to help us understand things, to help us understand the emotions of the other side of the table, like mediators.
But also to think strategically, I believe, which is something that you learn or you study. But however, about the lawyer thing, I just heard the other day that I think in Europe soon, there's going to be a ban for ChatGPT cannot release information that are medical or law related. So
yeah, but the thing is, to be honest, first of all, people are starting to build more and more themselves. More and more companies are jumping on this and offering other tools, maybe not selling it as a GPT or an LLM, but as a legal help. Even insurance companies that offer legal help are now doing this. So the funny thing is that people keep saying that AI won't replace the jobs where that one-on-one contact is so important. Maybe not so when it comes to nursing staff and all of that. But in the legal world, if the legal world does not start pivoting towards more mediating work, understanding the psychology of people, reading emotions, all of that, their added value is becoming less and less and less. They did a research in the US about how many people first go to a generative AI to understand their legal issue before they actually call in for legal help. And that's over 60% right now. So just to give you an idea, so it wasn't academic peer reviewed, but still, it was interesting to see that people don't necessarily need their lawyer at first, but at some point things get grimy. I've been a lawyer myself. I've dealt with divorces and, large estates after someone died, and then things get really nasty. And then you want that person at the table that knows and understands where everybody's coming from and making sure that everybody starts looking into the same direction. Now, that kind of stuff is still human stuff. So if you're in law school right now, I keep telling my students, because I teach law school in both universities, get educated on emotional intelligence side of things, but also really start challenging your creative thinking, because you have to be very creative in those situations to come up with a solution. So we have exams tomorrow, again, a whole day. And I keep telling my students, I'm not going to ask you a certain article of a certain law book or, a certain number of a certain ISO standard and then which paragraph. I don't care about any of that. I want them to reason and tell me how that brain of them comes to a certain solution. And that is what is really needed in the future. So again, I want people to stop fearing stuff because it's so apocalyptic. Like if you heard Dario Adami yesterday about the Anthropic CEO, about, where this is all headed and the power of big tech. It's all doom and gloom and apocalyptic. Yeah. What I want you to do is keep in mind that if the leopard is chewing, you're not the one being chewed. And so get prepared. It's fun, by the way. It's actually fun because you can do a lot of, you can build a lot of stuff that helps you with the most stupid things in your household or in your career. And so it's really fun to work with all of this stuff. And also, I want people to really understand that the only thing AI really can't do besides auditing itself, so that's a really great profession to be in right now, is to have that possibility of really understanding where people are coming from and really support them with that emotional side of things. And that is the same whether you're in HR, in marketing, if you're a lawyer, if you're in healthcare. It really doesn't matter in which profession you're in. So start critical thinking, creative thinking, agility, yes, but also really start tapping into what makes us all tick. And try to capitalize on that. Get prepared.
If you were to say your top 3 pieces of advice for people to upskill and reskill in the age of AI, what would they be?
Reskilling is very simple. I think AI auditors, AI governance experts, AI translator, whether you call that evangelists or whatever, and especially also AI policy analysts, those are going to be the ones that will have a job for at least 5 to 10 years, if you ask me. So once you reskilled, you're good. When it comes to upskilling, make sure you at least understand what an algorithm looks like. It's not a box, and there's a million examples online where you can learn the fundamentals and the essentials of AI for free. Start there. If you are in a specific profession, for instance, the other day I got a question from a marketing expert who said, if I want to start using Copilot in my profession, how would I do that? And I'm like, well, just take the marketing tutorial that Microsoft offers for your specific function. And they're like, oh, does that exist? So start digging into this stuff. Start really looking where because it's all free. It's all available. Nothing is like, oh, you have to sit down Tuesday in a classroom every evening from 6 to 8. No, you can do it whenever you have the time to tap into a Wi-Fi. And also start really mirroring what your peers are doing. And not so much the peers that are average or behind. But for instance, when people start out in AI governance, Oliver Patel, who's the head of AI governance for AstraZeneca worldwide, which is a pharmaceutical company, I keep telling them, start following Oliver because he gives you cheat sheets. You understand what's happening, where he speaks, what he speaks about, So if you want to understand, and you don't necessarily have to be in a pharmaceutical company, but when you're in AI governance, start following those people that you can pull yourself up to, but that constantly keep up to date. And then you don't have to read newsletters. You don't have to take additional courses. You can just learn by copying.
And I think that's a very great advice, but also it gives me a lot of thinking in the sense that nowadays, like I said at the beginning, technology is moving so fast. Everything is changing so fast. And to really keep up, we really need to make an effort. Like it needs to come from us to make an effort. And like I feel like before in the past, and when there was nothing like technology or AI, but in the past, I'm talking about like even the 80s probably. So that's the past I referred to. But like the only professions that really required a constant update were like medical professions, because of course there were always new studies, probably legislations, certain jobs. But a lot of jobs were like, once you've learned, that's it, right? You can always learn. But I think the learning curve was quite small back then. And now that's the beauty and maybe the fear of it, because the potential and the learning curve can be enormous and you can decide what to make of it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But at the same time, if you don't, that's at your own risk.
Yeah, then the leopard will definitely get to you. And I think, sorry, again, morbid analogy.
I will not sleep tonight thinking about the leopard. I need to run faster than you.
Yeah, sorry. This song starts playing in my mind, "In the Jungle, the Mighty Jungle."
Yeah.
The lion sleeps tonight. Well, not you. No, but it's really important to understand that you have to prepare for the future. You have to make sure that you outsmart whoever is your competition. And I think it's also very important that when we look at what's being offered, it looks like a lot, but it looks like it's going really fast. But to be honest, when I learned how to write Python and JavaScript, like a year ago, I was like, well, that was kind of stupid because now ChatGPT does it for me. But because it's a generative AI and it trains on everything that it consumes, it also starts to become degenerative. So more and more code is inaccurate. So if you actually don't know how to code, if you don't understand these languages, then you can't pick those mistakes out. You can't. And the same with prompt engineering. Right now, back then when I started to be a prompt engineer, I thought, and then a year ago, I was like, oh, that was so stupid. Why did I invest all my time in all these courses on prompt engineering? And little by little, we're really seeing that generative AI concept hitting us and less being accurate. So yeah, it's great to help you to kickstart a project or to kickstart an article. It's great to help you do some deep research, but you got to check everything. And at the end of the day, the more you learn, whether it's coding, prompt engineering, or just how things work in the world, the more you'll be able to really use it to augment your work instead of taking it over. I mean, you can completely automate your work, but then you're going to go really rogue with AI. And so, we're still struggling really to make not just large language models, but any form of generative AI super accurate. So I do believe that we have to work on protecting humanity at large. I think we have to make it more fair, more transparent, we have to ask for accountability. So I'm with Jeffrey Hinton on that. I'm with the Jan LeCuns who think, LLMs are highly overrated with what they can do right now. And we can better invest again in narrow AI, where we start finding very specific solutions for very specific problems, instead of chasing this big dream of AGI and even super intelligence. Maybe because I don't have enough testosterone in my body, but I can care less about that kind of stuff. I just wanted to be equitable, fair, just is my word I use for this. And I just hope everybody stops fearing this, starts getting prepared, and also starts helping to really bridge that digital divide, and hopefully that gap will disappear one day.
Well, I loved all of this. I wish we could stay here for another couple of hours. I know we would have plenty to talk about, but this, I think, was a beautiful closure to this conversation. Thank you so much, Esther, for being with us today. It was a real treat. And maybe we can see each other again in the future, right? Like episode 2, follow up with Esther. But I would love to hear also from the listeners. You can leave comments on Spotify. You can leave comments on LinkedIn when we'll post this episode. If you have any question also for Esther, I think she would be very happy to answer. But it was a great pleasure to talk to you today.
No, thank you so much for having me. And I'm sorry you got eaten so many times by that leopard. I hope you have a good... Next time I will not use the host. Next time I'll use myself. I'll say that I'll get eaten.
I think I'll be fine. But thank you so much again. And thanks to our listeners for tuning in one more time to Empowered in Tech, Women in Tech Netherlands. If this episode sparked something in you, share it with someone who's ready to take their leap in tech, in AI, in whatever, or want to learn more or have some thoughts on what to do next. Don't forget to follow Women in Tech Netherlands on LinkedIn for upcoming events, inspiring stories, and more. And of course, again, a huge thank you to our sponsor, the Westinghouse. Until next time, and in the meantime, stay curious, keep learning, and never stop evolving.